The hook Ryan pushed open the door to his dorm room, tired after another long day on the colony. The hall behind him was quiet, only the low hum of the station's power systems breaking the silence. He tossed his bag aside and shut the door, already thinking about collapsing into his bed. But when his eyes fell on the bed, his breath caught in his throat. Someone was already there. The blanket was pulled up, a shadowed figure lying still against his pillow. For a split second, Ryan thought it was just his imagination, maybe one of his classmates playing a prank. But then the figure moved, a soft breath rising in the dim light, and glowing eyes opened to meet his. Ryan froze, his heart hammering in his chest. The face staring back at him wasn't human. Her skin shimmered faint silver under the glow of the room light, and her eyes burned with an otherworldly brightness. Every instinct told him to scream, to run, to call security. But before he could move, the figure raised a hand, silent, sharp, and whispered, "If you shout, they will find us both." Ryan's voice caught in his throat. He stood locked in place, staring at the girl lying in his bed. Her voice was soft but filled with urgency. There was fear in her glowing eyes, not of him, but of something outside. Ryan swallowed hard, his throat dry. Who are you?" he managed to whisper. She shook her head, silver strands of hair sliding across the pillow. "Not now," she breathed. "Just don't call anyone. Don't make a sound." Ryan's mind raced. He was just a student, living on the edge of a human colony world. Aliens were real, of course, but distant. Something you read about in reports or saw in restricted broadcasts. Not something that slipped into your bed in the middle of the night. Not something this close, this real, this dangerous. His eyes flicked to the door, then back to her. "What do you mean they?" he whispered. Her glowing gaze snapped to the door, and she slowly sat up. For the first time Ryan saw her clearly. She was tall, graceful, even while tense. Her skin faintly marked with glowing lines like living circuits. She didn't look like the monsters the broadcast described. She looked human enough, but different in ways he couldn't ignore. "They are soldiers," she said quietly. "If they find me, they will kill you too." The words sent a chill down his spine. Ryan stepped back, his heel bumping into the desk behind him. "This is insane," he muttered under his breath. "You can't just hide in here." Her expression hardened, but her eyes still held that same fear. "I had no choice," she whispered. "This is the only safe place I could find." Ryan wanted to argue, to throw her out. But then, a sound cut through the silence. Heavy boots in the hallway, voices speaking in clipped tones. Ryan stiffened, his pulse racing. The girl's eyes widened, and she slid off the bed without a sound, moving closer to him. "Don't speak," she hissed, her voice barely audible. "Don't move." The boots stopped right outside his door. Ryan held his breath, every muscle locked, through the thin walls. He heard the metallic click of weapons, then a voice low and cold. "Check this floor. She was seen here." Ryan's heart thundered. He didn't know who she was or what she had done. But one thing was clear. If those soldiers came inside, his life was over. The girl pressed close to the wall, her glowing eyes locked on the door, her whole body tense. For a moment, Ryan thought he saw a faint light ripple across her skin. Like hidden power waiting beneath, the boots moved past, slow, heavy, echoing down the hall. Ryan let out the breath he had been holding, his chest aching. The girl relaxed only slightly, but her eyes never left the door. When silence finally returned, she turned to him, her voice low and steady. "You want me gone," she said softly. "But if I leave now, you will die too." Ryan blinked at her, his mind spinning. "Why me? Why would they kill me?" She met his gaze, her glowing eyes sharp and sad. "Because you've seen me," she whispered. "And no witness can live." The room felt colder, the silence heavier. Ryan realized his life had changed in an instant. He wasn't just a tired student anymore. He was now the unwilling roommate of something or someone that could get him killed. And whatever secret she carried, it was already pulling him into a danger he couldn't escape. Ryan glanced at the bed. then back at her. He wanted to demand answers, to tell her to leave, but all that came out was a single broken whisper. What happens now? The alien girl tilted her head, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. Now, she said quietly, we make rules. Asterisk. The strange Pactrian stood frozen, his back against the desk, staring at the alien girl who had claimed his bed, the glow. In her eyes dimmed a little, but the tension in her body never eased. She was like a wild animal cornered, dangerous, yet trembling with hidden fear. Ryan's chest rose and fell in uneven breaths, his mind scrambling for words. You said. Rules, he whispered, his voice thin. She nodded slowly, her silver hair falling across her shoulder. Yes, rules, she answered, her tone quiet but firm. If we are to survive, you must obey them. Ryan almost laughed, though no sound came out. Survive? He was a student, not some soldier in a war zone, yet her words carried a weight he could not ignore. What rules? He asked at last, his throat dry. The alien girl stepped closer, and for the first time Ryan noticed her height, taller than most humans, her movements too graceful, too precise. First, she said, you do not tell anyone about me, not your friends, not your teachers, no one. Her glowing eyes burned into his. If you break this rule, you die. Ryan swallowed hard, his lips parting to protest, but she raised her hand before he could speak. Second, she continued, her voice sharp, do not touch me, ever, no matter what. Contact between us is dangerous. Her gaze flickered for the briefest moment. As if remembering something painful, Ryan frowned, his pulse racing. Dangerous how? He asked carefully. She hesitated, her glowing eyes softening, but then she looked away. You don't need to know, she said coldly. Just follow the rule. Ryan felt frustration stir in his chest, but the fear in her eyes held him back. He realized she wasn't only warning him, she was warning herself too. Before he could ask again, she stepped even closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. And the third rule, she said, her words slow. You must not fall in love with me. Ryan blinked, confusion breaking through his fear. What? He whispered, almost laughing at the absurdity. But her face was serious, her glowing eyes locked on his. I mean it, she said, each word firm. No love, no feelings. Keep your heart guarded. Ryan's laugh died in his throat, replaced by silence. He searched her face for some sign of a joke, but found only cold determination. Why would that matter? He asked softly. Her eyes flickered again, something fragile hidden beneath the glow. Because if you do, she whispered, we both die. The weight of her words pressed down on him, heavier than the silence outside. Ryan wanted to argue, to demand sense from her strange rules, but the memory of boots in the hall and the soldiers' voices burned fresh in his mind. He realized she wasn't giving him a choice, she was giving him a chance to live. Finally, Ryan gave a short nod, his voice trembling. Fine, he whispered. I'll follow your rules, but you have to explain something, at least a little. Who are you really? The alien girl's face softened, just for a heartbeat. My name doesn't matter, she said quietly. Not now. She turned away, moving back to the bed and sitting on the edge, her glowing eyes dim in the shadows. But you may call me Lyra, she added after a pause, almost reluctantly. Lyra. The name echoed in Ryan's mind. Strange yet gentle. He wanted to ask more, but her body language was clear. The conversation was over. Instead, he sat at his desk, running his hands through his hair, the reality crashing down on him. An alien fugitive was in his bed. Soldiers were hunting her. And now they might be hunting him too. And somehow, he had agreed to live under rules that sounded more like a curse than protection. The silence between them stretched, broken only by the low hum of the colony outside. Ryan glanced at her again, noticing how she sat rigid, her eyes fixed on the door. Every muscle in her body was ready to spring. She looked less like a girl and more like a soldier hiding from her last battle. At last Ryan spoke again, his voice quiet but heavy. So, what happens now? Lyra turned her head, her glowing eyes meeting his. "Now," she said simply. We wait. The hours dragged on, each second filled with tension. Ryan tried to rest at his desk, but every time his eyes closed, he felt her presence. It wasn't only the glow of her eyes. It was the weight of her silence, the unspoken danger hanging in the air. The rules echoed in his mind. No telling, no touching, no love. 3 rules to bind him, 3 rules to keep him alive. But as Ryan drifted into restless sleep, one thought refused to leave him. Why would love be the thing that could kill them both? Close quarters the next morning came slowly, with pale light sliding through the thin curtains of Ryan's room. For a brief second, as he opened his eyes, he forgot everything. He forgot the soldiers outside, the rules, the danger. But then he saw her, sitting cross-legged on his bed, staring at the wall like a statue. Lyra hadn't moved all night. Her silver skin caught the weak sunlight, glowing faintly, her eyes dim but awake. Ryan rubbed his face, muttering to himself, "This is insane. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't some trick of his tired brain. There really was an alien girl sharing his small dorm room." He tried to pretend it was normal, moving to his desk, switching on the small kettle for tea. But the silence pressed against him until he finally blurted out, "You can't just sit there all day." Her glowing eyes shifted toward him, calm but sharp. "I can," she said simply. "I do not need sleep as often as you." Ryan groaned, slumping into his chair. "Great," he muttered. "So I'm stuck with a roommate who watches walls all night." To his surprise, her lips twitched slightly, almost like she was holding back a smile, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the same cold expression. The hours passed, and Ryan discovered that living with Lyra was not only strange, it was exhausting. Every time he tried to leave, she reminded him of the first rule. "Do not tell anyone," she whispered. "If your face looks wrong, if your voice shakes, they will notice." He wanted to argue, but deep down, he knew she was right. At lunch, when his friend Mark knocked on the door, Ryan nearly panicked. Lyra slid under the bed in one smooth motion. Vanishing into the shadows, Ryan opened the door with forced calm, his smile shaky. Mark frowned. "You okay?" "You look pale, man." Ryan forced a laugh. "Didn't sleep much." Mark stayed only a few minutes, but every second felt like a knife at Ryan's throat. When he finally left, Lyra crawled out, her silver hair falling loose around her face. "You are not good at lying," she said, her voice flat. Ryan glared at her. "Maybe I wouldn't have to lie if you weren't hiding in my bed." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then to his surprise, Lyra tilted her head. "You could have betrayed me," she said softly, almost like a question. Ryan blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "You could have told your friend, given me away, saved yourself," she continued, her eyes unreadable. "But you didn't." Her words hung heavy in the air, and Ryan didn't know how to answer. Instead, he shrugged awkwardly. "I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid." This time, Lyra didn't hide the small curve of her lips. It was faint, fleeting, but real as smile. Ryan stared, shocked at how it changed her face, making her look less like a fugitive and more like someone almost human. The days blurred into each other, life shrinking into the tight space of one room. Ryan tried to study, to pretend life was normal, but every night ended the same. One bed, 2 bodies, separated by nothing but silence and unspoken rules. He kept to his side, she kept to hers. Yet no matter how he turned, he could always feel her presence. The way her breathing slowed when she was at rest, the faint warmth of her body too close to ignore. One night, when the colony alarms wailed in the distance, Ryan sat up, heart pounding. Through the window he saw soldiers moving in formation, lights sweeping across the dorm courtyard. He turned to Lyra, who was already watching her, eyes glowing brighter. "They are searching again," she whispered. "Closer this time." Ryan's throat tightened. "For you?" "For me," she said simply, no fear in her tone, only certainty. The knock came a moment later, heavy on the door. Ryan froze. But Lyra didn't move. Instead, she leaned closer to him, her voice a sharp whisper. "Remember the rules. Do not break them now." Ryan's heart raced as the knock grew louder. The soldiers calling his name. He looked at her, her glowing eyes calm even as danger pressed against the door. And for the first time, Ryan realized something terrifying. This wasn't only about hiding her. This was about hiding himself too. Because the moment he broke one of those rules, it wouldn't only be Lyra who was hunted, it would be him. Asterisk shadows in the hall, the knock on the door finally faded, leaving behind an echo that lingered in Ryan's chest. The soldiers did not enter, not this time, but their heavy boots marched down the hallway, their voices low and sharp. Ryan sat frozen in his chair, while Lyra stood like stone, her glowing eyes fixed on the door as if expecting it to break it. Any moment, when silence returned, Ryan let out the breath he had been holding. "That was close," he whispered, wiping the sweat from his face. Lyra tilted her head slightly, her silver hair sliding across her cheek. "Too close," she agreed, her tone calm, though Ryan could see the tension in the way her fingers curled into her palms. That night, Ryan could not sleep. Every sound in the hallway made him flinch. Every shadow looked like a soldier waiting to strike. The dorm lights flickered once, twice, then burned steady again. He wondered if it was just the colony's old wiring, or if something else was crawling through the walls. Lyra seemed different too, more alert, more restless. She no longer sat staring at the wall like before. Instead, she paced the small room, her steps silent but sharp. When Ryan finally asked what was wrong, she stopped, her glowing eyes catching the faint light. "They are searching closer because they think I am near," she said, her voice low. "Are they right?" Ryan asked before he could stop himself, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Yes," she admitted, "but they do not know why." Ryan leaned back against the wall, his throat dry. "And why are they after you? What did you do?" For a moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she walked to the window and looked out into the dark courtyard. Her voice was quiet when she finally answered. "I carry something they fear." Ryan blinked, confused. "What? A weapon?" Her glowing eyes met his, and he felt a shiver run through him. "Something more dangerous than a weapon," she whispered. "The truth." Ryan wanted to press her for more, but the look on her face stopped him. It wasn't just fear, it was a weight, as if her secret was too heavy for words. Instead, he tried to lighten the tension, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, great. I always wanted to be a roommate to a wanted criminal," he joked weakly, but Lyra didn't laugh. She only turned back to the window, her voice flat. "Not criminal, refugee." The next day, the dorm felt less like a home and more like a trap. Ryan noticed soldiers patrolling outside, their helmets reflecting the dull colony lights. Even in the cafeteria, whispers spread among the students. Someone was hiding, someone dangerous. Ryan kept his head low, but his mind kept circling back to Lyra's words. What truth could be so powerful that soldiers would tear apart buildings to stop it? That night, the danger grew even closer. Ryan was woken by heavy thuds in the hallway, the sound of doors being kicked open one by one. His chest tightened as the noises moved closer, voices barking orders, boots pounding against the floor. He turned toward Lyra, who was already crouched by the bed, her hand gripping his wrist. Her skin was warm, her touch firm. "If they find me, they will kill you too," she whispered, her eyes glowing brighter in the dark. Ryan's mouth went dry, but he nodded, too afraid to speak. The soldiers reached the room next door, their voices clear through the thin wall. Ryan's pulse hammered in his ears as he heard someone scream, followed by silence. He wanted to run, but Lyra held him still, her grip unshakable. "Do not move," she breathed. "Do not even breathe loud." The hallway lights flickered again, then died, plunging everything into darkness. Ryan's heart leapt into his throat. But Lyra's glowing eyes lit faintly like twin stars, calm and steady through the black silence. They listened, waiting. The soldiers banged on his door once, twice, then moved on. their voices fading slowly into the distance. When the danger finally passed, Ryan collapsed back onto the bed, trembling. "This is insane," he muttered, his voice shaking. But when he looked at Lyra, she wasn't trembling at all. Her face was calm, her breathing steady, like she had lived through this 100 times before. In that moment, Ryan realized something. She wasn't just hiding, she was surviving. And whatever secret she carried, it wasn't just hers anymore. By letting her stay, by keeping her hidden, Ryan had already stepped into her shadow, outside. The hallway lights flickered once more, then burned steady again. But Ryan knew it wouldn't last. The shadows were growing, and sooner or later, they would come for both of them. Secrets revealed. The night was quiet, but Ryan could not rest. The pounding of soldiers on doors, the screams in the hall, the whispers of danger, all of it still echoed in his head. He sat awake, staring at the ceiling, his heart refusing to slow down. Beside him, Lyra sat cross-legged on the bed, her silver skin faintly glowing in the darkness, her eyes distant. She had been silent for hours, but Ryan could tell she was carrying something too heavy to hide any longer. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "Lyra, I need to know," he said. "Why are they hunting you? What did you do?" She did not answer right away. Instead, she lowered her gaze, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the blanket. "You would not understand," she whispered. "Try me," Ryan pressed, his tone sharper than he meant, but the fear inside him demanded answers. Lyra's glowing eyes lifted to meet his, and for the first time, Ryan saw not just fear in them, but sorrow. "They are after me because of what I carry," she said softly. "Carry?" Ryan echoed. "Like something hidden? A weapon?" Lyra shook her head slowly, her silver hair brushing her shoulders. "No, not a weapon," she said. "A truth." Ryan frowned, frustrated. "You keep saying that, but what does it mean? What truth?" She inhaled deeply, as if steadying herself, then placed her hand on her chest. "It is inside me," she said, "written into my very blood." Ryan blinked, his mind racing. "Inside you? What, like DNA?" "Yes," she nodded. "My people encoded something into me, something the soldiers fear, because if revealed, it will destroy them." Ryan felt the weight of her words sink into him. "They want to kill you, just to keep you quiet?" Lyra's lips pressed tight, and she nodded. "My father was a leader of the resistance," she whispered. "He knew the soldiers your colony's rulers were hiding something. They tell you humans and aliens cannot share this world in peace, that we are enemies by nature, but it is a lie." Ryan's eyes widened. "A lie?" "Yes," Lyra's voice trembled, though her gaze remained firm. "Our worlds once worked together, but the soldiers erased the truth. They created war to keep control, to divide us, and my father's work proved it." She placed her hand over her heart again. "When my father was killed, his final act was to put his research inside me. The proof, every file, every code, every truth locked in my DNA. And now I am the last one who carries it." Ryan felt the air leave his lungs. He had expected a crime, a weapon, maybe even some stolen treasure. But this was something larger than life. A secret war, a conspiracy, proof of peace hidden in the blood of a girl now sharing his bed. His voice shook as he asked, "And if they find you?" "They will erase me," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "And the truth dies with me." For a long time, neither of them spoke. Ryan stared at her, his chest heavy, his mind torn. He had only wanted a quiet life, study, survive, blend in, but now he was sitting in the dark with an alien girl who carried the kind of secret that could change the galaxy. Lyra's glowing eyes softened as she studied his face. "You should leave me," she said, her voice low. "If you stay, they will hunt you too. You will lose everything." Ryan swallowed hard, the fear in him screaming to run. But when he looked at her, sitting there fragile yet strong, hunted yet unbroken, something inside him pushed back. He shook his head. "No," he said firmly. You're not alone in this anymore." For the first time since she appeared in his bed, Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. It was small, almost hidden, but it carried warmth that pierced the cold air between them. "Then we stand together," she whispered. The lights flickered again in the hall, shadows shifting beneath the door. Ryan's heart raced, but he no longer felt like a bystander. Whatever truth lived inside Lyra, it was his fight now too. The betrayal. The colony lights dimmed to red, alarms echoing. Through every corridor, a metallic voice repeated the warning over the speakers. "Lockdown in effect. All students remain in your quarters. Any movement will be punished." Ryan's chest tightened as he pressed his back against the wall, listening to the heavy footsteps of soldiers marching outside. Beside him, Lyra stayed, perfectly still, her glowing eyes fixed on the door, her body tense like a bowstring ready to snap. They had survived so far by staying hidden, but the walls were closing in. The soldiers searched every room, one by one, and it was only a matter of time before they reached his. Ryan turned to Lyra, whispering, "We need a plan. We can't just sit here." She shook her head, her silver hair brushing across her cheek. "If we move, they will see us. If we stay, maybe they will pass." But her voice betrayed her doubt. The door suddenly rattled, making both of them freeze. Then came a softer sound, a knock. 3 quick taps, familiar. Ryan's heart jumped. He knew that rhythm. "It's just Mark," he whispered. Rushing to the door, Mark was his closest friend, the one who had covered for him in exams, the one who always shared meals with him. If anyone could help them, it was Mark. He opened the door only slightly, just enough to peek through. Mark stood there, his face pale, eyes darting nervously down the hall. "Ryan, let me in, quick," he hissed. Without thinking, Ryan pulled him inside, shutting the door fast. But the moment Mark's eyes landed on Lyra, Ryan felt the air change. Mark froze, staring at her silver skin, her glowing eyes, the alien girl sitting on Ryan's bed. His voice broke in shock. "It's true. You really have one of them here." Ryan stepped forward quickly. "Mark, listen, it's not what you think." But Mark's eyes hardened, his hands trembling. "You've been hiding her this whole time? While soldiers are tearing the colony apart? Ryan, do you know what they'll do to us if they find out?" "She's not dangerous," Ryan insisted, his voice urgent. "She's being hunted. They're lying to us. She has proof." But before he could finish, Mark's voice rose in panic. "Proof? You don't understand, Ryan. They already know someone's hiding her. They questioned me. They promised if I helped, they'd let me go." Ryan's blood turned cold. You told them?" he whispered, disbelief choking his words. Mark's face twisted with guilt, but also fear. "I didn't want to, but what choice did I have? They'll kill anyone who helps her. I had to save myself." Lyra's expression was unreadable, but her glowing eyes narrowed. She rose from the bed slowly, her voice calm but sharp as a blade. "And what did they promise you, human boy? Safety? Freedom? They will use you, then discard you. That is what they do." Mark flinched at her words, but anger sparked in his face. "You don't understand. You don't belong here. You brought this danger to us. If you go with them, maybe they'll stop hunting us." Ryan stepped between them, his voice breaking. "Mark, please, don't do this. She's not the enemy. The real enemy is the one controlling the colony. She has proof. If we help her, we can expose them." But Mark shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. "You always believed in impossible things, Ryan, but this time you're wrong. This time, your belief will get us all killed." The sound of boots thundered down the hall. Closer and closer, Mark's eyes darted to the door, then back to Ryan, his decision already made. He reached for the handle, ready to pull it open, to let the soldiers in. Ryan grabbed his arm desperately. "Don't, Mark," he begged. "Please. You're my brother, don't do this." Mark's face twisted with pain, but his hand still reached for the door. Before Ryan could stop him, Lyra moved, her hand shot forward, glowing with strange energy, and the lock on the door melted shut. sealing it with a hiss of burning metal. Mark stumbled back in shock, staring at her. "What are you?" He breathed, his voice shaking with terror. Lyra's glowing eyes blazed as she looked at him. "I am the truth they fear," she said coldly. Soldiers pounded on the door now, their voices barking commands. Mark pressed against the wall, trapped. His betrayal complete. Ryan stood frozen between his oldest friend and the alien girl who had trusted him. The colony around them roared with chaos. But inside that small room, the silence was heavier than the pounding fists outside, Ryan realized. In that moment, the line had been crossed. Mark had chosen fear, and Ryan had chosen her. There was no turning back now. The final twist, the metal door groaned under the pounding of soldiers, each strike shaking the walls like thunder. Ryan's heart hammered in his chest as he stood between Lyra and the sealed door. Knowing it could not hold forever, Mark sat slumped in the corner, his face pale with regret and fear. But his betrayal had already cut too deep. There was no time left, no second chances, only one choice to make. Lyra stepped forward, her glowing hands raised, silver energy swirling around her like smoke. Her voice was steady, almost calm. "They are here for me, Ryan. If I stay, they will capture me. If I leave, they will follow me. But either way, you will be in danger." Ryan turned to her quickly, his voice sharp. "No, we're in this together. I won't let them take you." But Lyra's eyes softened, her strange light flickering like a fading flame. "You don't understand. I was not sent here to study humans. I was sent here to protect them, and that protection has cost me everything." The pounding on the door grew louder, the soldiers shouting for backup, weapons charging with a rising hum. Ryan grabbed her hand, ignoring the strange energy buzzing against his skin. "Then let me help you, whatever you're hiding. Show me now." Lyra hesitated. Her glowing eyes locked on his, and for the first time, Ryan felt the weight of centuries in her gaze. Slowly, she placed her hand on his chest, and the room seemed to vanish. In an instant, Ryan saw visions not his own: burning worlds, fleets of warships, towers of fire reaching into dark skies. He saw her people fighting, not to conquer, but to resist a far greater enemy. An empire made of machines and lies. The government of the colony, the very soldiers pounding at the door, were part of that empire. They were not protectors, but wardens, keeping humans locked in cages too blind to see the bars. And Lyra had been sent, not as a spy, but as a last chance to awaken humanity before it was too late. Ryan staggered back, gasping as the vision faded. "You mean they've been lying to us all along?" he whispered, his voice broken. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, your world is not free. You are kept small, kept weak. Because if you knew your true power, the machines would fall." The door finally burst open, soldiers storming in with rifles raised, their eyes hidden behind black helmets. Lyra pulled Ryan close, her voice sharp as a blade. "Stay behind me." Silver light erupted from her hands, a wall of energy blasting the soldiers backward. But more poured in, filling the hallway like a tide of shadows. The room became chaos, gunfire, sparks, the smell of burning metal filling the air. Ryan dragged Mark up from the corner, pulling him out of the line of fire. Mark's voice cracked. "I didn't know, Ryan. I didn't know they were lying." Ryan didn't answer, his eyes fixed on Lyra, fighting alone against the storm. Then came the twist, the moment that froze Ryan's blood. Through the smoke, a figure stepped forward, an officer, taller than the rest, his armor marked with crimson stripes. When he removed his helmet, Ryan's world shattered. It was the face of his father, the man who had vanished years ago, the man he thought was dead. "Ryan," the officer said coldly, his voice steady, "step away from her now." Ryan's breath caught, his voice breaking. "Dad, how are you here?" His father's eyes were hard like steel. "I serve the Empire now, and so will you. Your loyalty is not to her kind, it is to your people." Lyra's glow flickered, her voice heavy with sorrow. "He is one of them, Ryan. He chose the machines over freedom. The soldiers surrounded them, weapons aimed. The tension like a blade pressed against skin. Ryan stood frozen, torn between the father he had loved and the alien girl who had shown him the truth. His father extended a hand, his voice commanding. "Come with me, son. This is your last chance." Ryan looked at Mark, broken and guilty, then at Lyra, glowing and defiant. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his choice. And then Ryan stepped forward, not toward his father, but toward Lyra. His voice rang out, steady and clear. "If freedom means standing with her, then I choose her." His father's face darkened, soldiers raising their weapons, but before the first shot fired, Lyra unleashed a burst of energy that swallowed the room in blinding light. The world cracked apart in sound and fury, and when the light faded, Ryan was gone. Along with Lyra, only smoke and silence remained. The colony whispered of that night for years. Some said Ryan died, others believed he had been taken beyond the stars, but those who had seen the flash of silver light remembered his words. And for the first time, humans began to question the empire that ruled them.